You were getting some hate on our YouTube channel over that.
Am
pick.
I?
It was from a Michigan State fan. He said, "Ha, how you feel now? MSU on top. You thought we would lose to those bums." And you know what? He did.
It's random Michigan State fan. I don't really think about you much at all. Welcome to the Rivalry Podcast. My name is Jace. That's JP. This is your garbage-free college football podcast focused on the Ohio State-Michigan football rivalry. And we have got a ton to get to from the opening week of the season. But first, JP, spin that little wheel route for us.
Let's take it away and see what wheel route has for us today.
By the way, if you are not watching at Rival Pod on YouTube, that is a poor decision, and you should make better ones. At Rival Pod on YouTube and across social media.
All right, well, these are
team to watch out for. So, I mean, we had this question last week, but I think it can change a little bit this week. I'm going to make you answer this one first this week.
Oh, man. Last week I said Penn State and you ripped me.
Right, because they were ranked 7th in the country already.
And in my heart of hearts now, I'm looking at Florida State. And I know we said stuff last year, and I don't want to say them. Because
say what you've got to say, man.
Last week we were not ripping on them, but we both kind of said.
I thought they were going to be. I thought LSU was going to expose them.
We thought they'd be 0-1 and their hopes would be dead. Well, now I'm looking at their schedule and I'm going, okay, well, they beat LSU convincingly.
Yeah, not even close.
Who's next on their list? Clemson. Well, I just saw what Duke did to them. So who do I think has the easiest path to the playoffs now? It's the Seminoles. And so to me, that is the team that you have to look out for. Now, does that necessarily mean that I think that they are one of the best? No, but they have the easiest route in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, they passed the first test.
Yeah.
And I mean, and again, that's not to say, like, well, you passed just one test and then it's like, no, but like the reality is the ACC is not the Big Ten.
Yeah,
it's not the SEC.
Strong. Clemson and LSU were the toughest games on their schedule. LSU was tougher than Clemson by miles in my mind. And maybe LSU really is just that bad. And maybe we overhyped them a little bit. But I watched that game and I just thought, man, all around, Florida State just impressed me from top to bottom.
Yeah, I think I'll stay in the top handful of teams. I thought Alabama looked really good. And again, take it with a grain of salt based on who they're playing. I thought Alabama looked really good. Oregon looked really good. And again, I'll grant you, they're playing a team called Portland State, which is, I don't know if you know this, not a state, it's a city, a town, if you will. But I thought Alabama and Oregon both looked surprisingly good, even taking into account the competition that they were playing in week one.
Yeah,
so.
And that's what you kind of expect week one is you play those teams that you just kind of roll over and get the job done and move on. So you got to take some of that with a grain of salt, but I agree. Alabama impressed me as well. So
looking at Michigan for this first week, I think let's start there because I just feel like there's, I don't know.
A little bit less to say.
There is because Michigan played a very good football game. The competition was not outstanding, obviously. ECU had a good year last year, but they lost
they were 8-5, but they lost their starting running back, quarterback, receiver.
A ton of talent gone.
Everybody was gone.
Not remotely the same team. It's funny because Michigan and Ohio State fans are both the same when it comes to their over criticism of their football team. So Michigan has their first drive. They get the ball at like the 2-yard line and they run the ball 3 times and punt. And people were already on social media going, "Oh boy, we can't run the ball. We're not being able to." Do you realize? I don't know if you've watched football before. Yeah. What they're trying to do is not turn the ball over at the 2-yard line because they go, "Hey, we could just punt this away. We trust our defense, and we're going to be okay."
Yeah.
And you know what happened? They punted the ball away, got the ball back, and drove down and scored.
Yeah, and that's been the Michigan way. That's been the Michigan way to play anyways. You got the best running back tandem in Big Ten with Edwards and Corum. Your game plan, you're gonna run the entirety of that game. I mean, that's the thing. And they didn't have to.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is that they were being conservative right there at the beginning of the game. JJ McCarthy looks like a completely different animal than he did last year. 26 of 30, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, all of them to Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson balled out. He
3 touchdowns.
He looked good.
And they had a connection last year too.
They did, but again, this was kind of what we were promised on the Michigan side during the offseason was we were told JJ was bigger, physically, that he was faster, that they were going to have more of a balanced air attack versus running attack. And it was a great adjustment. What we saw last year a lot was Michigan said, we're going to run the ball on you. And when they ran the ball, eventually teams would kind of start stacking in. That's when Michigan would kind of dink and dunk a little bit and throw the ball around. This game was kind of the opposite. The run game didn't really do numbers, but ECU stacked the box early to keep Michigan from running the ball, and JJ lit them up. And later in the game, you saw ECU kind of back off a little bit, and that's when you saw Michigan start handing the ball off a lot more. They're also up by 30, trying to get guys out of the game and just kind of milk that clock with the new rules too.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I want to start off by saying a little dig at Michigan, because why not? What in the world was up with that stupid formation, holding up the
train formation? I love it.
The playing that the victim card is so gross. You punished yourself. You made suspend. You want Harbaugh freed?
But why
did
why did they self-suspend though? Was it just for kicks?
It feels like
no. They self-suspended because they're trying to handcuff what the NCAA can do in the future. Yeah. You and I both know that the entire Harbaugh cheeseburger gate thing is ridiculous.
It's stupid. But
so
it's
why
also
not draw attention to that? Why not draw more attention to how ridiculous it is? I don't
think it's going to change anything.
You're talking about it, aren't you?
I'm talking. I have no control over the NCAA. I can't look.
What's
you know what? Harbaugh suspended the whole year.
What's amazing to me is the little brother attitude that's coming from both Michigan State and Ohio State fans who have nothing else to talk about except the fact that Michigan looks darn good. So we're going to find the most obscure thing we can and make it a problem.
I'm not saying it's a problem. I just thought how dumb that is. Like I get going out and talking about it. There are other ways that you could bring attention to it rather than trying to play that weird victim of I want free hardball shirts and whatever. It's whatever.
Hey, I think Michigan just scored on your defense again.
I think we'll see this year. I think walking away from that game, I saw this a lot on the Ohio State side and on the Michigan side as well, where people were disappointed that they didn't put up more points. And I'm like,
that's ridiculous.
Michigan had 3 drives in the first half of like 70+ yards that are lengthy drives. They drove down the field. They punched it in. They were up, 23-0 at half. Yeah. And they were in complete control. They weren't in fear of losing that game.
They took their foot off the gas.
They took their foot off the gas, which is fine. You don't want to see that happen too consistently, but they were in zero trouble for losing that game.
Well, and I'll also throw this out too. And again, this is not entirely true across the board. Look at what Oregon did to Portland State. But with the new rules, with the running clock after a first down outside of the last 2 minutes, like that's going to shorten up your games.
100%.
It makes
the scores.
Every possession is going to be that much more important. Nobody that watched the game is remotely concerned about anything from Michigan. Yes, you could look at it and go, well, the running game didn't do the numbers that we're used to. Right. But did you see the passing game? They didn't need to.
And I do think
a lot of that is just strategy. The other, the only major takeaway that I'm going to have is I look at it and go, yeah, kicking game was inconsistent.
See, the only thing I walked away from
I miss Jake Moody. And that'll fix itself. I'm not going to, if that's the biggest problem I have is, hey, we missed an extra point. Kicking game's a little inconsistent. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think
I'm not concerned about that.
And we can talk about Ohio State here in a little bit. My takeaways from that game were nothing that they did wrong. It's just stuff that if I was a Michigan fan, I would have liked to see a little bit more of.
Like what?
I would have liked to have seen Edwards be a little bit more dominant. He only ended up with 30-something yards.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though.
I mean, you kind of expect that because he's going to be splitting carries with Corum a little bit. But once it became a blowout, I would have liked to have seen him be a little bit more the featured back, get a couple more carries. I think going into this next game against UNLV, they're not going to be in trouble of losing that game either. I would just like to see. There comes like a fine line with running backs now where you want to preserve their legs for the late season, especially Corum coming off that injury.
You don't want Edwards coming off his own injury too.
Yeah, you don't want. Granted, that was his hand, so like you don't want to see him going out there and exhausting his leg against UNLV and East Carolina.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Edwards kind of be the featured back. I thought McCarthy played exceptional. I think what's impressed me a lot about him is year by year, he showcases another step forward.
Yep.
So, I mean, his first year, you could see the talent there, but he didn't really show anything.
Yeah.
It was just...
Well, it also wasn't his team.
You saw flashes of it, but he was splitting with Cade. And so it's whatever. Last year, he finally took control. You saw another huge glimpse of what he could be. But the passing game was there, but it wasn't what it is this past week. This past week, he showed, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. 26 to 30, 298, 3 touchdowns. And he made it look easy.
And I think that's where, you could say, okay, well, it's competition. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But just from a game plan standpoint, and again, will that look the same when Harbaugh comes
accuracy,
back?
Though.
I think it will. Yeah, it's the accuracy.
The yardage isn't what concerns me because it's East Carolina.
And the game plan of we're going to come out throwing the football. Like if I'm, and again, we're looking at this through the lens of the rivalry. If I'm Ohio State right now and I look at my defense versus what happened last year and the year before that also, and look at this and go, okay, now it's not just, hey, we've got to figure if we just have to shut down the rushing attack, but now there's, I mean, and he showcased it a little bit. I mean, more than a little bit in the game last year. But if there's now a legitimate, consistent passing attack too, that's that. You're exactly right. That's that next step for Michigan.
And
that's
what,
all
as a
good
Michigan
signs.
fan,
That's
when you were going in,
signs.
as a Michigan guy, when you're going into this game, those were the things you were looking for. Was how does Corum look, which he looked fine.
Yep, he looks.
How does the
really
defense
healthy.
look, which it looked great.
Yep.
Didn't get a sack, but who cares? I mean, they
I'd
only
like to see
scored.
I'd like to see more defensive pressure, but we had that same thing last year.
They scored as time expired. It was basically 30-0.
The saddest field goal.
Yeah, who cares? You wanted to see McCarthy advance. You didn't want to see the same McCarthy. You wanted to see the leadership was already there. Yeah, and he looked exactly what you were hoping for.
Yep.
So all around good for them. Going up against UNLV.
The Visor McCarthy, JJ McVisor.
Stop it. We are not making that a thing.
JJ
it is not
McVisor
like Fetch.
has been.
It isn't. You are
the
not
era has started off low.
No.
Yeah, UNLV will be. UNLV will not be an issue. ECU was the most. Again, hear what I'm saying in context. ECU was the most concerning of the non-conference games, just because they had some success last year. UNLV is not a good football team. Bowling Green is a very bad football team. UNLV, I agree with you in the sense of I'd like to see more of the running game this next game.
It's not that it worries me.
No.
It's just from a fan's, if you're a Michigan fan, I want to see Edwards come out there.
Yeah, let's see you do it. Although, again, if I'm UNLV, I take the same game plan defensively as ECU, and I say, we're not going to just let you run the ball. In Michigan at this point is just so dangerous. It's going to be hard to contain. I don't have much. I'd love to see the run game do a little bit more. I'd like to see more consistent special teams from Michigan, especially in the kicking game, as far as field goals, extra points, not so much punting or coverage or anything like that. 54-7.
Okay.
I think Michigan's going to have good offensive day. I'll give 7 points to UNLV, kind of like ECU, because Michigan will back off and have the 2s and 3s out there and start playing soft defense. That's what they do. It's bound to give up a garbage time touchdown somewhere. This game's not going to be close.
Yeah, I think it'll be basically the same story as this past week. They're going to go out there and get a big lead going into halftime. They're going to take their foot off the gas. You're going to see them. I still think their second string is going to be too talented. I think Edwards will really have a big day.
Yep.
I have the final 42-7. I think it's just going to be a quick first half. The second half, they're just going to kind of run it, try and get the clock going.
It was the most boring second half of football.
Yeah, and that's what it's going to be.
That's what you expect.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Michigan, you hope for those days.
Correct.
And so I think it'll be 42-7. I just don't see UNLV. I know they're 1-0, but I think their win last week was against like Bryant College or somebody
what
like
is that?
Yeah, who knows? I know they were decent at basketball like a year or so ago, but
not decent at basketball. Well, actually, I don't know. They might be decent at basketball, but you know who's decent at building and designing your home? It's Elevated Integrity Construction.
True, it's facts.
They might. Aaron Carroll. Yeah, Aaron might be great at basketball. I don't know. I don't know, Aaron. If you're good at basketball, I'm really sorry about that. But hey, if you're looking for just quality work on your home, church, or business build, you've got to go with Integrity. Integrity's right in the name. You don't have to worry about, are they going to do a good job? Are they going to be honest? They will. We can vouch for them. We're grateful that they're sponsors. You can find out more at elevatedintegrity.com. elevatedintegrity.com, and we are grateful for them for sponsoring season 5 of the Rivalry Podcast.
Is it time to talk about the good old Buckeyes now?
How do you feel?
Yeah, okay.
Like let's cut the chase.
It was a roller coaster.
What in the world is going on at quarterback?
You know what I'm more frustrated about?
I do not.
Is Ryan Day. And not in a like
spicy.
Not in a let's go fire the man or anything like that.
No, get off your chest, man.
I don't understand what we've been doing this whole offseason, where it is a quarterback battle and all this stuff is going on. You start McCord, and I kind of expected maybe what everybody in the nation was expecting, where it was McCord gets a half, Devin Brown gets a half. You compare the halves and go forward.
Yep.
But it was like first quarter 7-3 or something like that, and Devin Brown's being trotted out there after like a series or two, and then he runs the ball 3 times.
It was bad.
And I'm just sitting there going, but why?
It wasn't good,
But
man.
why? And then overall, I don't even know if Devin Brown played more than 10 snaps. He was like 1 of 3. He handed off the ball a bunch of times, but he didn't really play significant time. So in my mind, as a fan, I'm going, okay, well, now it's a clear indicator Kyle McCord's the starter.
Well, and that's where, and you and I texted about it a little bit, where, you know, I hate watched the game, of course. But I was interested, and it was, I think it was, I want to say it was late second quarter when Brown came in, but it was.
I don't know if it was even that late,
but it was a 7-3 game, which is its own issue. Okay. That's its own issue. It's a 7-3 game, and he brought Devin Brown in, and I think he threw a couple passes, but
he was 1 of 3 for like negative 2 yards.
He definitely ran on third down and went nowhere. And I looked like Diet Tate Martell out there. I don't know what the thought process was of, I'm going to bring him in here. I don't know if it was, it's 7-3, this is awkward, let's try and switch things up. But that did not feel like the time to do it.
What I think is so weird about it is
I'm not upset about it, obviously, but I don't understand it
normally
either.
If you're going to do like a smoke screen like that for a starting quarterback, it's before a big game, not before you go and play in Indiana.
Right.
Like if it was going up against Notre Dame and you were trying to figure something out of if this person was injured and going to be starting, I get trying to lay low. But to me, you showed your hand now, because it's very evident to me Devin Brown was not even in the competition.
No.
He just isn't. There's no way you can tell me that is a legitimate competition when one guy goes out there and throws 33 passes and the other guy throws 3. Well, there's no way you have adequate film on either of them to make that decision. It's already been made.
I think the interesting thing too, and this is not original to me, somebody on the Ohio State beat mentioned this, but I think it's deeply concerning if you're a Buckeye fan to go, granted, like there's gamesmanship here. Like Harbaugh is the king of doing this, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between Harbaugh going, hey, here's what Cade did last year, and here's what JJ's capable of, and we're going to play it into the competition, into the season. That to me is different, because Cade had proven himself. This whole thing felt like, I'm going to try to play it almost felt like, in hindsight now, I'm going to try to hype this up like this is a competition when it's clearly McCord, but also and this is the part that came from the beat, I believe. The fact that Kyle McCord played that way on Saturday, but is still the clear-cut leader, tells me that there wasn't so much competition as much as Ryan Day's pulling his beard out going, what the heck am I supposed to do here?
See, and I think it's a little bit of an overreaction on Kyle McCord's performance. It wasn't phenomenal, but I
wouldn't even say it was good.
I would say it was serviceable. I mean, it was.
Is that the standard, though?
Not for Ohio State, which is the issue. He's got to grow into it. But you look, CJ Stroud's first start wasn't that great either. It wasn't anything to write home about. And so
who was his first start against?
I want to say it was against Indiana, but maybe it was Maryland or somebody like that too. And so I do agree with you in a sense that it's different than Michigan. I think back when they had Cade McNamara and McCarthy, you already knew what you were getting in Cade. He had already started. He was a serviceable guy.
And that felt like a legit competition for obvious reasons.
The question wasn't who is better. It was we know what Cade is. Cade led us to a great record, a great season, but we know the potential. Yeah. Everybody knew McCarthy was going to be better than Cade.
But he had hit you're right, he had hit his ceiling.
But he had hit his ceiling. And so it was not a question of who's the better one. It was, okay, we've got 2 guys. One guy we already know is capped. The other guy is almost at the same level, and we know that his ceiling is infinitely higher.
And that was absolutely the right call.
Do we make the tough decision? Whereas now it is we just had an elite guy who, by the way, was just named the captain of the Houston Texans as a rookie in CJ Stroud. And then you're bringing in these guys, which McCord had a couple, like I think 1 start prior to Saturday.
Maybe.
It was against Akron.
Okay.
And I remember him starting that game.
You're right.
We were coming back from Michigan Rutgers, actually. I remember that.
Hey, that's when our colleague tried to give us COVID.
Big facts.
Wow.
And so he had started 1 game prior. it was just frustrating to watch, but I think it was a little bit of an overreaction. I know people were mad about his interception, but it was 4th down. They were already going for it. You either throw it away or try and make a play, and you were already deep back into their side of the field. So I wasn't necessarily concerned with that. I thought he made some nice throws. I thought he had some that he missed. My biggest concern, and it hurts me a little bit to say,
do it.
And I almost texted you this before,
but you didn't want to.
But I didn't want to jinx it this early. I didn't want to use my Cade Stover game this early, but I almost texted you and said it was going to be a Cade Stover day only because, and I did have legitimate reason. The only reason is because I thought that Ohio State's game plan would be to run the ball with Henderson and Mayan and to do short, comfortable throws, which the tight end is always the safe option. So that's why I thought, and it proved to be true. Marvin Harrison and Ibuka had 5 catches for like 40 yards, maybe combined. My one concern going forward is I want McCord to throw the ball against Youngstown State and against Western Kentucky.
Yes,
I want him to sling it. I want him close to 40 attempts. I want to see what we've got.
You know what's coming on the horizon at the end of the month.
I want to see it. I want to know, can he make the throws he needs to make? Because when you go to South Bend in week 4, he's going to have to step up and make some.
You play that way against Notre Dame and you will get beat by 3 scores.
And I think the defense played exceptional. Granted, it was against Indiana,
but they did. They
played well.
I'll throw them a bone and say you did what you needed to do.
Yes,
I don't think they were great. I'm not walking away with the silver bullets or back and all that garbage. It was a good defensive play.
It's tough to say.
Indiana
I think the defense
is terrible.
I think the defense will be good enough to keep them in the Notre Dame game. The factors for me.
I love also that we're just assuming Youngstown State is a win.
100.
Okay, cool.
Youngstown State is accepted the L on their website. I've already seen it. If you go into this, I think the stuff that I need to see, I want to see McCord sling it. I mean, to me, against Youngstown State and against Western Kentucky, he's got to have 300 plus yards, a couple touchdowns. He's got to be super efficient. But I also, and this is maybe the biggest factor because it's going to help Kyle be able to make those throws, I've got to see TreVeyon Henderson be TreVeyon Henderson.
Go ahead. I'm glad you brought this up.
I walked away from this weekend, and there were times where he looked explosive again. And I thought, all right, here we go. But it just never... I wanted to see a dominant performance from him. I was expecting a 100-yard game. I was expecting the run game between him and Mayan and Chip to go out there and be able to make the job a little easier for McCord going out there. And I just didn't see it. I wasn't overly impressed with the run game.
Well, I told you last year, and I'll stand by this, that I thought last year Mayan Williams was a better running back than Henderson.
And Chip might be better than both of them now.
And you're preempting me a little bit because I came away from that game not impressed with the run game at all, but going, you know what? I think Chip Traina might be your RB1.
The converted linebacker might be our best guy.
And again, that's not. I think Mayan Williams is still a good running back. Mm-hmm. I do not understand for the life of me why TreVeyon Henderson is your RB1.
See,
I didn't last year, and I'm going to stand by that. I don't get it.
I think he's got the explosiveness too. I don't know if injuries have gotten to him. I think Mayan has proven to be that bruiser back when they get in the end zone.
Traina is a little more twitchy.
They're giving it to him, and he's going in. TreVeyon's got a little bit more movement to him. I'm concerned going. This has been the prove it year. His freshman year, I thought, here we go. We're just reloading at the running back position. And
it hasn't been that way.
Last year, he kind of started out that way, and then the injury happened, and he just never.
And again, let's remember, this is not an elite defense that they were playing.
No,
okay? Indiana's not good. So if I'm looking at that as a Michigan man now. I will also grant you that there is a difference between playing a team in September and playing them in November. Mm-hmm. But let's speculate wildly anyway. But as a Michigan man with our defense, I'm salivating. I'm looking at that going, and I wrote this on the blogs as well, which you can find at riverradio.com/rivalry.
Wow.
But I said, if McCord I needed McCord to look human. I needed him to look vulnerable. He did. I didn't see anything in the run game that made me go, oh boy, we better watch out for. I think Michigan, Notre Dame, and Penn State are all salivating watching that game. But
here's the thing with Ohio State is, sure, McCord wasn't flashy, but I'll take 200-something yards, and he could have been a little bit more accurate, sure. I won't hold the interception against him because of the scenario it was in. Ohio State's wide receivers are not human. And that's Ibuka and Marvin Harrison.
And that's the other big concern, though, is Marv had, I wrote this down because I was shocked. Yeah. 2 catches, 18 yards. And let me consult my notes here. Someone said, or I read somewhere that that is the second least in his career. 2 catches, 18 yards.
It's not going to stay that way.
It won't. But my question is, why couldn't you not find him or Igbuka? And again, I get that. Hey, well, it meant Stover was open. Most of that chunk came on one play. Most of it.
Stover, he was five for 94.
Stover had himself a very good game. But as far as yardage goes, the big chunk of that came on one play. If you're Ohio State, you are calm compared to where I'd be in the same situation with that type of wide receiver on either end. And you only got the ball a handful of times.
Talk to me next. Talk to me after week 2 and 3. If the problem still comes up, I think
it has to be an absolutely anything but a dominant performance against FCS school. And again, like it has to be. For me, there's no excuse.
The game plan going into week 1 was Jim Tressel-esque conservative of we're going to go and we're going to try to run the ball. We know our defense is going to be there to stop them. We know they're not going to score enough to beat us. So we need to go out there and play the safe plays. We don't need to risk it. We need to give McCord safe throws. We need to run the ball. And that's what they did. They weren't trying to gun it out and throw deep passes often. But that's what I'm looking for against Youngstown State. Going into this next game, which we can transfer over to that now, going into this game against Youngstown State, I need to see McCord slinging it. I need to see the run game go. I've got the final 45-3 because I need to see you've got to come out and offensively show me you've got athletes.
I think against this opponent, the issues will look like they're fixed. Time will tell if they actually are.
Notre Dame.
And I'll even say Western Kentucky, I think, is going to be an interesting matchup, and we'll get to that next week.
Are you saying it would be a hill that we have to top?
I would not say that. I was going to say that what would be ideal is if at the gates of the game, everyone just hand out like free tattoos, like those little water tattoos.
Wow.
To welcome Tress back. I hope we get to see Tress in the press box. The Tress box, if you will. I'm sure.
We are going to be at the game, so we should probably preface that. We're going to be there.
Yeah.
You can actually follow all sorts of stuff that we're going to be doing on game day on all of our socials at Rival Pod. We've got Twitter. We've got an Instagram. We've got a YouTube that we're going to be uploading stuff to.
And as a reminder, too, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber because we're grateful to Elevated for their support, but it does take support of listeners like you. So whether it's you can chip in $5 and kind of get yourself a little rivalry sticker, or you want to do a little bit more, we've got these rivalry shirts, which I remembered to wear this week.
I know. We're twinning today.
Feel free to check that out. We would greatly appreciate you considering becoming a patron. It helps us be able to get more merch. To get it out to you, helps us with content, helps us be able to attend games, looking at college football playoff stuff. All that happens thanks to your support. So thanks for considering that. 54-7.
I hope.
Or I'm sorry, that was my Michigan prediction. 52-0. Very similar.
Yeah.
Again,
I'm fine with that too.
I think the issues will look fixed. If they don't, buckle up for a very
if it's
long
another
season.
like 28-10 or 28-7, even 28-3, I would feel like then you can start to overreact. But right now,
if it's 28-3 against Youngstown State, you are in full panic mode. Also, I keep wanting to reference 3-2-1 Penguins, but I don't know if anyone else knows who that is.
I have zero idea what that is.
Okay, so there's the creators of VeggieTales made the spin-off thing where it's like penguins that it's almost like a mix between Toy Story and VeggieTales where these penguins come to life and they teach you about the Bible.
I've never seen that.
It's fine. The first
it'd be more entertaining than watching the Youngstown State Ohio State game this weekend because it's going to be a slaughterhouse.
The first movie I ever saw in theaters was Madame Blueberry from VeggieTales.
That makes sense for knowing who you are as a person.
Anyway, let's talk about what happened elsewhere in college football. There's so many storylines. Here's the one that I want to bring up. The Oregon Duck does push-ups after every single touchdown. Oregon scored 81 points.
Jack, that dude's muscles are insane.
546 push-ups for the Oregon Duck on Saturday afternoon.
Yoked, man.
That's it. That's literally the only thing that I want to say.
Arms are insane.
Other than congrats, and this is going to sound wild coming from me. Congratulations to Michigan State. I picked Central Michigan to upset them. Congratulations, Michigan State. Michigan State has already, in one game, Michigan State has already achieved 20% of last year's win total.
I don't know if you've seen this yet.
20% of last year's win total in 1 week. Wait. Mel Tucker. Tuck coming. Let's go.
I don't know if you've seen this yet, but did you see that you were getting some hate on our YouTube channel over that pick?
Am I?
You absolutely were.
Who's hating it? At Rifle Pod on YouTube.
Yeah. Go and find it. Let me see if I can find this. Here it is. It was from a Michigan State fan. He said, how you feel now? MSU on top. You thought we would lose to those bums. And you know what? He did.
That's cool. Random Michigan State fan, I don't really think about you much at all. I just think about you during this podcast to make fun of you.
Congratulations. You struggled for the first half against Central Michigan and then had to watch your star receiver play for Florida State and dominate. So. And also while paying your coach, what is it, 10 years, $95 million?
It is. Thank you, random Michigan State fan, for commenting on that one.
This is a garbage-free podcast until those come in.
I'll give this subscriber this. I'll give him this. Michigan State is one elite player away from being an elite program. If they could land a guy like a Keon Coleman.
Oh, can you imagine that? What that offense would
Michigan
look
State
like
with Keon Coleman? Easily 5 wins.
If you follow us over on Twitter at Rival Pod, you'll see I actually did a custom jersey swap of that.
Did you?
And it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
Do you have any other takeaways from week one? I mean, there's so many, but give me one at least.
Can we just take a moment to rejoice that Clemson got absolutely smoked? It's just, I came in this morning feeling great.
Woo.
I watched that. I got to watch Brian Kelly look sad on the sideline. That was phenomenal.
What a great weekend.
Rutgers dominated Northwestern, so I was living.
So tell me, so we do this thing, if you're new to the podcast, it's called Rutgers to the Rose Bowl, where we rank what the chances are still statistically of Rutgers making the Rose Bowl game, which again this year is a college football playoff semi. What on a scale of 1 to 5 Shianos on the Shianometer?
Look, after week one, I think it's at 5 out of 5 Shianos.
5
It is not dead.
Let's
go. Technically, they still
Rutgers
could go.
to the Rose Bowl
they've got Temple. They've got Temple as a night game. If you're looking for some energy, you're looking for a nice night game under the lights.
You get to play something called Wagner.
Who doesn't want to spend their Saturday night in Piscataway, New Jersey at night watching Temple football? I mean, honestly, it just don't get better than that.
And I don't remember if it was at this point a Michigan broadcast or an Ohio State one, but they had said, it might have been Michigan because Michigan was going to Rutgers, and they had said, there's with a night game coming up against Rutgers. This was last year. They said, there are so many campuses in the Big Ten that I would just love to spend the day walking around. And at the bottom of the list is Piscataway, New Jersey.
That's fair.
And I've been to the campus, and I concur.
I've never been, but it's on the bucket list.
Yeah,
I would not go to see a night game at against Temple.
It's not so much on the bucket list as much as it is on the bottom of the barrel.
I would go. No, I want to go, but I want to go see a night game when it's like Penn State, somebody like that. When Rutgers is decent. I mean, Gavin Wimsatt showed some improvement. I thought I'm comfortable with him going forward. They'll beat Temple. It'll be 2-0. Then they play Virginia Tech. That's going to be the first test. That's probably where we're going to lose some Shianos here and there. But right now, sitting pretty at 5 of 5.
All right, so we now come to the part of the show where we're going to give you our upset picks for week 2. We call this Stupid Genius because sometimes it's stupid, sometimes it's genius. Neither of us were correct last week.
No.
I picked Central Michigan. You had South Carolina. Both of those teams lost in pretty heavy fashion.
Yep. Wasn't even close.
Here's what we're going to do moving forward. We're going to put some parameters on this. So this is loosely based on Superdog from College Game Day. When you pick moving forward, we're going to start keeping points. We're going to start keeping track. You get 5 points if the team you call for Stupid Genius actually pulls off the upset. You get 5 points.
Okay.
And you get the points from the spread. So let's say you had picked Colorado over TCU last week. You would get 5 points for that pick because they did it, and you would get 20.5 for the spread.
I like this.
So you would end up with 25.5. So the only caveat here is the spread has to be at least 4.5 points. It's got to be at least a 4.5 point spread for it to be considered an upset.
Easy.
Fair?
Easy.
Okay.
What's the so did we come up with something that's going to happen for the person that loses this?
We haven't yet, but you can always let us know.
Maybe that's something you could vote on.
Let
a
us
suggestion
know.
box.
I think that's good. Follow us at Rival Pod.
But I'm down.
All right, so here's mine this week. This is, I believe, a 6-point spread, so it qualifies. I am taking Texas over Alabama.
Dang it.
I'm a big boy. I said in the week 0 episode that Texas is my dark horse playoff team. The one thing Urban Meyer and I can agree on, and that's it.
Fair.
But I'm just a big believer in Texas. I know Alabama looked really good. I know their new quarterback looks good. I'm a big Quinn Ewers guy. And I just
Ohio
think
State great.
I think don't even. I just think Texas has enough talent on their team, even without Bijan this year. I like Texas pulling the upset in this one. I really do.
I want it to be noted that I did not know that we were going to start a competition before I made my pick. And I also knew that Jace was going to pick Texas over Alabama.
What did you do?
This is going to really make you mad, and I love every part of it. NC State over Notre Dame. Let's go. Brennan Armstrong, Shelby, Ohio native. Shelby, Ohio native. Going to come out gunslinging.
Do you know the spread on that?
It's 7.5 points. So not terrible. Not terrible.
I'll be honest.
It's at home. North Carolina State's at home, which helps.
I'll be honest. I don't hate it.
I knew you would just hate that I mentioned Brennan Armstrong.
I do.
So local guy.
I don't hate it, and here's why. Because as much as I think Notre Dame is the real deal, they haven't proved it yet. Mm-hmm. And I think going on the road at NC State is is NC State phenomenal? No, but they're a good football team.
They've got decent quarterback play. I think the potential is there.
This will be a good test to see how legit Notre Dame is.
So I've got it. My first chance to take the lead. I'm relying on the hometown kid.
This has been stupid genius, and we're going to start keeping track. And
I like
it. You can vote. Let us know.
Yeah, send your suggestions to us on Instagram or on Twitter
at
RivalPod.
Last thing, let's cover here with the shakeups in week 1. Give me your top 6 teams in order.
Top 6,
and I want them in order.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to write stuff down.
Okay.
So I've got at 1. I'm gonna go Georgia 1.
Agree.
Michigan 2.
Agree.
Until they lose, I'm still going Ohio State.
Okay, this is where we part ways.
Then I'm going to go Florida State. Then I'll go Alabama. Who do I want at the 6th spot? I don't know who my 6 is right now. It's a toss-up.
That's fine.
It's a toss-up.
I'll agree with you on Georgia 1, Michigan 2. I'm going to repent. I'm going to put Florida State at 3. I think that's the best win of the weekend. I have no problem with that. I'm putting Penn State at 4.
Ooh, Penn State's a good one.
I liked what I saw from Penn State. I liked what I saw from Drew Aller.
I was going to go Tennessee or Penn State. Okay, one of those two.
I liked what I saw in the two-headed running back monster that Penn State has, because Penn State right now looks a lot like Michigan.
Yeah, and I said that last week, and you ripped me.
But now I've got something to base it on.
No, I said that same.
No, you didn't.
Same. Run the tape.
You didn't.
I said that last week, and you rolled your eyes at me.
No, I rolled my eyes because I said a team to watch out for. You picked a top 17.
No, I said this team reminded me of Michigan when McCarthy took over. You had a young quarterback that was highly recruited, that had a lot of promise to him. You had a running back duo that was phenomenal and a good defense. And this man rolled his eyes. You can run the tape. Run it back.
Bama 5.
Official review.
Bama 5, USC 6, Ohio State 7.
USC has not played anybody yet for me to be worried about.
Ohio State has played nobody and looked bad doing it. So there you have it.
I still got it.
Make sure you follow us on social media at RivalPod. Make sure you are following, especially this weekend as we head to see Ohio State play Youngstown State. Consider becoming a patron, subscriber, and supporter. Go Blue.
Go Bucks.
Thanks for watching.
The Rivalry is a production of River Radio Ministries. Want live updates from the show? Follow us on Twitter at RivalPod for live tweets, score predictions, contests, and more. And make sure to follow us wherever you're listening now for new episodes every Wednesday. And if you like what you're hearing, tell a friend so they can listen too.